Welcome to the latest episode of FoodTech Stories. I'm your host, FoodTech marketing expert Megan Thomas. FoodTech Stories features the leaders pioneering new approaches to technology, collaboration, and storytelling in the food tech and ag tech space. Food and agricultural changing, and fresh ideas and leadership are needed to sustainably feed the growing global population. Join us every other week as we talk to a founder, operator, or visionary in food and agriculture. My guest is Melanie Morrison, and Melanie is the founder and CEO of BetterCart Analytics, AI startup focused on consumer products and retail based in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Megan. It's great to be here today. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. What led you to found BetterCart Analytics?
I had spent probably about a decade and a half almost, observing the disconnect between what we were seeing on grocery shelves and what data people actually had access to. When we were thinking back at that time, it's often people didn't have access to a lot of data sources. There wasn't anything readily available. And we actually started out as a consumer-facing platform. That was the impact behind BetterCart, and the impetus behind it was to start creating some transparency around data that your average consumer or shopper did not have access to. Later on in the journey, when we started BetterCart approximately 5 years ago, into that journey, we thought, okay, well, let's see if this problem, this lack of data transparency, actually exists for the retailers, for the CPG brands, for those micro and new and emerging brands that are trying to get on retail shelves. Sure enough, the answer was yes, that we didn't have the technology there to support them at the time. And we actively started solving that problem then on the B2B side about 2.5 years ago.
What is your background in the field?
I actually come from an academic background. So I have a PhD in social psychology. So very comfortable with understanding people's attitudes, behaviors, conducting research on that, and now even pushing the boundaries in terms of neuroscience indicators of purchasing behavior, product attraction, and a variety of other indicators that companies could gain access to through the BetterCart platform in the years to come.
Can you give a couple of examples of the type of data that you're gathering within the platform and providing to your customers and partners?
What we do is we harvest all of the data that's available in the public domain around grocery pricing. We originally were going to start in the pharmaceutical land with drugstores and our pharmacies. But the vision for the company was so big that we thought, well, let's go right to the most immediate needs of people and see what the needs are there. We took it right back to the grocery stores. What we're doing is we're providing access then to all of this data in real time or near real time. What that means is that a company could come onto our platform, have a look at what competitors are doing in the space. They're going to see the current pricing as well as a vast historical record that's really become powerful over the last many years. They're going to see price hikes, price drops. They're going to see what is regular priced products or those that are on promotion, and looking at those sales cycles, pricing strategy. And as well, you can do that by neighborhood, city, region, province, and then across the country. So people can see pricing strategies in one fell swoop on a single screen. It's pretty amazing to bring this data to people's desktops for the first time for those that have been less well served in the technology adoption process, as well as just being a target market for tech companies to focus in on.
When I get the chance to meet listeners of the podcast, they often mention the quality of the production as one of their favorite parts of the show. That praise is due to the team that edits the show, TJG Media. Their team works with the raw audio files of each interview to enhance the quality of the sound, minimize external noise, and cut out the natural pauses that occur in conversation to create each fast-paced episode. Plus, they create engaging short-form videos to promote each episode on social media. Visit tjgmediallc.com to find out more. In the US, we have two behemoths in the syndicated data space with Nielsen and the legacy IRI, recently rebranded. Are they active and dominant in Canada as well, or should we think about it differently?
We've spent time learning about Nielsen and their offering. I wasn't interested in starting to build a company that had some duplication or massive duplication. I didn't think that would be a very wise move, and certainly all the time and effort that goes into building a company from the ground up. With that in mind, we're looking for competitive differentiators. We're looking at supporting groups that had been left behind. We focus in on targeting groups within the food ecosystem or food supply chain that had been less recognized, less well served. Nielsen may have some focus in on larger corporations that can often pay into the syndicate and become a part of that. They also then offload POS data. Point of sale data has its own gaps and limitations that we know of. They're also tad slower to offload information to CPG companies because of their size. They're not as agile, as quick, and as tailored to pockets and stakeholder groups in the supply chain that may need their insights as quickly as they do. Incoming BetterCart. We are a Canadian platform predominantly with the largest independent grocery database available to Canadian retailers and CPG companies. And when we say that we're within the retail space, we want to help those that are independently owned as well as those that are on the CPG side, new and emerging. People are putting their heart and souls into these products and their development, and they need this market intelligence, these price analytics and competitive insights to drive their strategies. So we're here on the Canadian side. We also find, Megan, that even these larger CPGs on the Canadian side may be left behind. The American arm of the operation is well stocked, well served, a lot of access to data, technology, and so on for the very large behemoths, the juggernauts, if you will. Those groups on the Canadian side of the operation may not be as well. I've had conversations with large multinationals, and they've said our system is that we would go around and manually go and check pricing of competitors in the stores themselves. And I said, well, how often do you do that? Once every 6 months. We know we could do a better job for you. We know that we could bring this intelligence to you and spark joy, if you will. So that's what we're busy doing, bringing that to the desktop and driving strategy and intelligence there.
You saw an opportunity to serve the underserved Canadian market, and then also the opportunity for startup brands, challenger brands to be better served as well. So very, very interesting. So you mentioned that you've taken a couple of, and I don't know if you'd consider them pivots, I would call them pivots, within your strategy since you were founded. What have you learned from those shifts?
First of all, it is a huge learning curve. You just don't go full steam ahead, 180 horsepower in one direction, and then be able to turn it a dime and reorient and re-narrate your story. The target market changes, the competitors change, all of that intelligence changes. As a founder, you have to be super on point with how you redirect your energies, and you cannot give up. Stay the course. It takes a lot of research, though. And just when you're getting to the point where you think, okay, I've got one area cased, you have to turn and you have to pivot a bit. Our decision behind that was the path to revenue can be a little more transparent, accessible for us than building a consumer facing platform. Now, we have our consumer facing platform under the hood. What we want to do ultimately is, in a bit of time here, we bid to support consumers or start engaging in consumer analytics for the companies we are supporting. This is going to be, I think, quite an impressive array of analytics that would be coming to our clients, the corporations there, and being able to support them. Really understanding, and there's a multitude of ways that we can tap into what consumers, the signs that consumers are giving these companies, and really bring that, match that intelligence with advanced price analytics and the market understanding. So it's an exciting way to open that up and never to say goodbye to the consumer platform. But ultimately, we also recognize, Megan, that we're a social impact company. We want to support the underserved, yes, on the B2B side, but we know that consumers are struggling like never before between Canada, the United States. The reality is that people's dollars are not going far enough. We have more individuals at food banks than ever before. We want to assist. I mean, we know now, if ever, that consumers would be highly interested in this platform. We have the data that spans back 5 years. So we've got a lot to give on both the B2B and B2C side. We want to support consumers as quickly as we can here, given the needs.
I love that you introduced the concept of social impact and that you're focused on that. The data you have is primarily around pricing. in terms of consumer pricing, but do you have other types of data or just really the focus is on the pricing data?
Yes, we're going to start looking at supply chain management and looking at that as a precursor to our price analytics and be able to weave that price analytic intelligence in there so we can take companies from concept to sales just that much faster and support them in that development and create some connections between manufacturers, suppliers, and see what the relationships and the connectivity and the network effects we can build in and around price analytics with the largest database in Canada that we have that we know that it's also undermined incredibly given just our team size and so on. And so we look at potential to support companies in terms of their needs. And then we're partnering now with some larger granting agencies that will enable us to get very, very close to some select companies and drive their strategy forward with our data. So we look forward to those questions, those empirical questions that we're going to answer with our data.
Are you looking to streamline and find efficiencies within that supply chain and so deliver better pricing at the end of the day? Or are you looking to help consumers have access to better quality pricing data so they can make the best informed decisions? Or is it a combination of the two?
It's the former predominantly. That's what's driving us right now. That is where we sit on the B2B side. We're straight up on that front, working hard on that facet.
So the consumer would reap the benefits of those efficient database decisions. Thank you for clarifying that. We hear a lot about AI these days. You've been in this space for a while. I know here in the States, in the first quarter of this year, 2025, we saw a real shift in funding from the venture community toward AI startups. Some other sectors like food tech, ag tech that I'm involved in, we're seeing a much smaller piece of the pie. How is BetterCart leveraging AI in a unique and different way as part of your go-to-market strategy?
We're fitting a gap that has existed in this market space, period. Our go-to-market is really looking at building partnerships with a variety of different groups that are supporting food tech and tech companies. This is surfacing like never before. So there's a major push in Canada to really support food tech companies and to build pathways to multi-billion-dollar invest now, and we will reap the benefits of this. So on the plant-based side, on the independent grocer side, these are fast-growing markets. Then to provide intelligence to them at the ground level is really, really critical. We've with partnerships and groups, and we're looking at partnering with food centers that are supporting new companies that are going to market. So why can't we be their intelligence gateway? That makes a lot of sense to us. That's what we are doing. We also get a lot of outbound right now and really trying to harvest as much of the many relationships we've built over the last few years. Landing in this culture, landing with this business focus, landing in this milieu, and it's changing. It's great to be seeing these companies when they're getting this messaging from the industry that AI for efficiencies, we know that, but AI for strategy is very intriguing. If we can assist companies to get to that layer where they're utilizing AI-driven technology that answers their questions, that supports their decision-making for the first time with real data that you can utilize to win with, that's what we're striving for. When we talk to some companies, they're really saying that, okay, we don't even know what we sell the most of. We have to come on in there and be able to support and assist them, in real time. And it may take a while, it may take a few months to get this off the ground where they're actively relying on the data, but it drives profit margin and will keep many of these independents and smaller groups alive as they actively compete with the bigger ones, the bigger players in the field.
Clearly, the data is valuable. You're thinking of yourself beyond simply the data provider, but more of a partner in leveraging the data in terms of strategy. Is that how you think about it, or would you frame it differently?
For right now, we are in that data provision aspect of our development and our trajectory here. So we want, though, to ostensibly have it build up as many use cases as we can over the next while, be able to support with our own data, the return on investment, the profit margin increases that we are seeing. We want to formalize that as best we can and make that known throughout the landscape. When they think of a price analytics company, price intelligence strategy company that can assist them in various phases of their own service offering, that they think of BetterCart Analytics, and that they think of BetterCart as a way to get on board, easily transition to using technology that would normally be inaccessible, unaffordable. Nobody be knocking on their doors to talk to them. So this is what we want to do, to disrupt the status quo.
Excellent. So, how big is your team?
Our team is comprised of 6 individuals, so we're fairly lean, and we essentially have myself and CTO, and then we have somebody working on the data acquisition piece, our machine learning and AI piece, and then our third pillar is really the surfacing of the analytics and that talking and communication between the front end and the back end. I'm engaged in sales as well, and we've just got somebody that's come on board to support some development in that regard.
How do you think about culture as you're building your company?
We work remotely, which is fascinating too. That has its challenges for sure. Our people work independently a lot of the time. There's check ins and meetings and strategy and so on. But nevertheless, I mean, it's kind of push in your own regard. We've got these priorities and let's get them to the end of the line and let's keep making sure that we're putting out a good product. That's a critical thing. So we have to do a lot of talking, but lines of communication get garbled. And that's a challenge. I was just with 2 of my teammates in Edmonton at Amy. So that is the huge AI conference that just occurred. And so we were on the stage, the main stage there. It was really exciting. Myself and my teammates were the ones that shut everything down, basically, because we just enjoy each other. And it's a great opportunity to be together and talking about things. When you hire remotely as well, you have to make sure that there's that personality fit. It's a testament that I've had people working with BetterCart and myself for the last several years. Like, we don't have exits.
Sounds like you've been learning as you have in other aspects of your enterprise. So
Totally.
it sounds it sounds consistent. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so interesting in this day and age to think about hybrid work and how we can best do that. I work with a distributed team as well. There always is a lot of learning there for sure. So you touched on that you had forged some partnerships, Melanie. Are there any relationships or partnerships that you found to be particularly valuable as you built the company?
There's the Canadian Food Innovation Network. That is a fantastic hub for those in agri-food, food tech. It's just incredible that this membership has grown as it has. We work with Amy, we work with Venture Lab. These are incredible organizations that assist us on the technology side, but also in terms of industry relationships. They've just been powerhouses for us. Love working with them, like really, really strong relationships. And then we're looking at developing some with food centers, being able to support these companies as they're getting a leg up and starting to go to market. When we look at large food centers in the country, one of the areas that we know that these companies need help with, that's a critical piece when you're designing a product, when you're developing it, working hard to do all that. You really do need to know how this is going to go at the end point and what this is going to look like in the market and the fit. We can shine a light on that earlier on in the process. Maybe we'll support companies to be those future juggernauts in this space and those challenger brands like you called them. And let's be that for them.
And when you refer to a food center, I assume you mean like an incubator or like an innovation hub?
Correct. And there's one that I should say as well as FEED, is Female Entrepreneurs in Agri-Food Development. They now have 2,000 members across the country, and they've just been building for the last year and a half. So this is all women-led businesses starting out to bring their products to market. It's a very exciting time. And then we're also in the States as well. We are pushing into the States and we have some contracts down south because the market is so large there. Not everybody is wrapped up in Nielsen or anything along those lines. So we're bringing that same impetus behind our company and rationale and extending it into the United States where there's need as well.
Yeah, so I've always understood the Canadian market to be, from a retail standpoint, highly consolidated, whereas the US, we still have some regional players that command some share in certain markets. So I imagine that working in the South, which is where I reside, is probably quite different from working in Canada, but I'm glad to hear you're making inroads here. Melanie, what's the most surprising thing that you've learned so far since founding your company?
Start with an idea. It can't just be one thing per se, but to have an idea to ensure that that pivot happens To move to the new terrain and the new established order was a good move for us. You can be just blown away by is in a span of a few short years, everything that you have built. And to have a team pushing and pulling in the right direction and really doing something that is so fantastic and powerful. And we're not even scratching the surface, I think, of what we have. Underlying that, though, our own company development and what we're building that we're really excited about is just a bedrock of support. That is very surprising. I come from the background in academia, the publisher parish world. It's cutthroat, it's very singular. Teams were introduced not so long ago. Woo, people, if you collaborate, you might have a better run at things. For us, it's individuals, and that's something that is special about, certainly in Saskatchewan. You've got a lot of support. And I, as a woman business owner, tech company CEO, have had a lot of support across the country moving into the United States. And there's support of the Trade Commission and all of those doors opening up. It's very, very exciting. And it's not over yet.
Part of the surprising aspect is just that you learn different things than you think you're going to learn as you go through the journey. So, as a business owner myself, that resonates with me. So, what's next for AI in your sector?
We have our own focus. We're looking at predictive analytics. So we'll be in that vein. We're interested in supporting CPGs and letting them know what's going to happen in their space, in their segment with their products 6, 8, and 10, 12 months out in advance so they can make some smart decisions. We don't want people to be left behind in the market, and that will ultimately help consumers as well. This is where we're headed internally. We're also looking at broadening our scope of service offerings. We're looking at becoming that absolute gold standard of all-in-one AI-driven platform from, hi, I have a concept about it, a product, to let's get you out there in the market as quickly as possible. So we're going to be probably moving in the extend on either side, right on through to consumer. And our platform will expand. We think we can make some inroads here fairly quickly. It won't be as broad a scope as pulling data. It's coast to coast to coast. We went big and it's very exciting. We didn't start in a city or anything along those lines. This approach, though, will start in smaller nodes, if you will, and then expand out.
It sounds like you have a very clear sense of what's ahead, which is fantastic. When you look to the future, Melanie, what are you most excited about?
For us, we envision our growth to be massive in the next probably year or two. Changing the approach that we're taking, we're positioned, I think, in the market will be one of excitement and one to watch. That will dictate the decisions we make at that point. So we really have our head down right now, focusing in on the next quarter, 6 months, essentially to a year. When we get to that year end point, then we're going to sit there and say, yeah, okay, what is our next phase, our next plateau that we want to get to, and let's rocket ship there. I think that's what we're looking at. And we're so keen to continually onboard new clients and really make that breeze for people. Like, we've got it down to a fine science. So now it's time to speak to the masses and let them know what we've been building. And we're super excited about that. We love the innovation and I love the power of data. That is part of my background as well. And I know it's super powerful. So we just want to get that into the right hands, use the data for good, and support companies that heretofore have just been outside the conversation, never allowed in. That's what we're here for.
You've defined your ideal customer and how you can best serve their needs. So if folks want to find out more information about BetterCart Analytics, where should they go?
They can head to our website, so bettercartanalytics.com. One word, BetterCart Analytics. We're also can be found on LinkedIn, BetterCart Analytics. Follow me along as well. I'll be speaking to our journey even more so in the next while because it's getting very exciting.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I enjoyed our conversation, Melanie. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Thanks so much, Megan. So nice to meet you.
Thanks for joining us today on the latest episode of FoodTech Stories. Be sure and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform and keep an eye out for our bi-weekly episodes. I'm your host, Megan Thomas, founder of Ladder 17. FoodTech Stories is edited by TJG Media.